Hey,
Hi,
Sally.
good. Hey, Sally. Hi, good morning, everybody. Thanks again for joining today. Parsa Chanrami here, Chair of the Youth Development Council. And we are starting this meeting at 11:03 a.m. on February 13th, just to review the agenda. So then I'm going to pass it to Brian. Go ahead.
Thank you so much. Good morning, everybody. For the record, Brian Detman, Youth Development Oregon, Youth Development Director for our state agency. The meeting agenda, as Melissa's put up on the screen, is I'll turn it over to Melissa. I don't know, Melissa, if we have to do like a formal roll call. Maybe we can just actually have like people who are here just introduce themselves. Like, I don't think we have to go through all 18 or 20 or whatever the number is. So maybe we can just ask real quickly for council members to quickly say their name, and then we'll look at the agenda, the draft agenda, which Melissa will screen share here in a second. Then we'll leave a little time for public comment. And I see some of our staff have joined, so appreciate that. I see Mike Norman from the Heck, I think, is here, so appreciate Mike, your being here. We don't need to keep things too formal. If folks want to chime in with a question either in the chat or something, like, feel free. This is usually ends up being a 30-ish, 35 minute meeting, but we've got an hour scheduled. So I know and I'm excited that Bobby Devine is here. Now, Bobby has not yet officially, I think, been appointed to the council, but he's got an application in, and that's working its way now to the governor for a appointment decision. So I'm just on behalf of Bobby, I'm saying, Bobby, thanks for being here. We will give you the official word that you're a council member probably by the end of this month. And that's kind of how that works. So maybe I'll turn it over to Process said hello, but Molly, kind of in an outgoing role, Nate, and are the other council members here. So if Molly and Nate just want to quickly say hello.
Hello, everyone. Name is Nate Latanzio, and I'm council member here.
Thanks, Nate.
And Molly Rogers, and March, I think, will be my last official meeting.
Yeah, thanks so much, Molly. And we've got staff. I see Quarter Deputy Director Sally Deck, also here, grant manager and managing a lot of our engagement and other grantee convening work. Tanasia is here, I think, kind of providing some admin support and backup, but staffing a lot of our grant convening work. So appreciate everybody being here. So, Melissa, do you want to share? The draft agenda on screen, and then we'll just
Ooh,
walk you all through
easy.
that.
Good.
One thing that maybe I'll just say explicitly, because I think I heard Melissa say this at the beginning, we have this is whatever, 2 or 3 or however many weeks in advance of our official quarterly meeting, we organize these meetings so that we can kind of preview the agenda with council members. And we've also, I think, traditionally had like committee chairs attend, and then the overall council chair, Parasa, and the vice chair, when available. I texted to BD, so we'll see if he's able to come. But Parasa, you'll be able to chair our March meeting, right? It's a hybrid meeting.
Yes,
Yeah.
I believe I am still able to continue
So
to chair the March meeting.
sweet, great. And obviously, in situations where that can't happen, it's great to have our vice chair TBD some this multiple times for us. So we'll see if TBD is able to join. But also want to more intentionally invite our younger, newer council members, even those like Bobby, who are like on the precipice to attend these meetings, our youth committee in particular, so that they can hear kind of what's coming up, and so we can answer questions or provide any context. Which, because sometimes in our quarterly meetings, we can't. We're moving pretty fast. So just Nate, appreciate your being here today, and we'll see if others join us as we go. So it's maybe kind of small, Melissa. I don't know if you can make it a little bit bigger.
Let's see if I
Um,
can. Just a second.
my eyes are,
Hang on, let me get to the right controls here.
You're not the
yeah,
only one, Brian. I had to zoom in too for me.
yeah, maybe I can. Oh, yes, look at that.
Can
It's a
you?
little, yeah, it's bigger, Melissa. I
Whoa,
can't,
that's too big.
yeah, a little too big because now you need to scroll over to the left margin or something because now we can't see.
I think you might need to zoom out on yours.
Maybe I did
Mine is
that.
still centered.
Is it centered for
Yep,
others? So it's a Brian problem. Awesome.
that is really large though. Let's see. That's about as big as that's filling my screen,
Okay. I
but
might
still
need your
centered.
help because now whatever I did, I can't see the left part of the agenda.
Oh dear.
I'm gonna chime in. You can use your
Yeah.
thumb and index finger on the trackpad to change the
Yeah.
size.
Thank you,
I'm
Denise.
trying that, Tanisha, but it's not working.
The other option is up by at the tip top where it says Melissa Gallardo is sharing your screen. There's a circle with three dots in it. If you click on that, it gives you the choices of like fit to window, 50% original size. That might also reset.
What?
Thank you.
Technical support is
I know
fantastic.
it
Thank you,
is.
Sally. Thank you, Tanisha. I'm now better off. All right. So we'll start the meeting with call to order and roll call and welcome. The meeting starts at 10 a.m. It's scheduled till 2 p.m. It is hybrid. Some of us will be at the Public Services Building in Salem, but if you are able to show up in person, you are welcome. Probably would love to have you let Melissa know if you're coming in person, but it is a hybrid meeting, so I imagine many people will be virtual, and maybe some small collection of like staff will be at the Public Services Building in Salem. But keep that in mind. We'll start around 10:05 maybe as we kind of get people coming in. I'll do a quick director's update. Just we reserve space to highlight any, breaking news, any, really urgent matters. So we will have just had the end of this short legislative session. So perhaps we'll have some information about decisions, or we hope there will be information about decisions, budget decisions specifically from the short legislative session. So if there are any budget reductions or any new things, new legislation that impacts our work. Um, Parsa, thanks. I see your note about joining virtually in the chat. So whatever I can share, frankly, around budget, I'll do my best to provide some update. And if other folks know information, Parsa's knee deep in legislative session. I know to our juvenile director folks, um, maybe Bobby or Molly, or just sometimes bring good and important information. So yeah, we'll give ourselves 10 minutes, thanks, and be able to answer questions or just have some conversation, right? Because I think, Molly, to your point, it's usually good to make sure we're all up to speed on what's coming out of the legislative session. So that's the first item. Any questions or comments about that portion of the agenda? Um, Tabidi just texted me, said he's gonna try to make it in this morning, so we'll look out for him, Melissa. Then we'll move to our juvenile justice, and SAG stands for State Advisory Group, or SAG. So just for general awareness, the council also serves as the state's advisory group regarding our federally related responsibilities in juvenile justice, specifically around the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act and our Title II dollars, which we administer and allows us to support some of our positions in in compliance monitoring and support for the juvenile justice work, and some of the Title II dollars or dollars that we administer and give out as grants to organizations doing juvenile justice prevention and intervention related work. So we want to give an update regarding the state advisory group. I think there are a few things to note in that update. One, we just today finished our audit with staff from the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention at the Department of Justice federally. They were in town all week visiting, goodness, could have been 10 or more facilities with Anya Sakino, our associate director, and Lindsay Schoonover, our compliance monitor. It was a really educational week. They are going to give us a more formal report of their findings. There are definitely a couple of I won't get into this now because I think it'd just take more time than I think we have, but there are a couple of places where we see some opportunity for adjustment and improvement. And there's for example, I'll just say quickly, like things we can do on our operations, like making our forms simpler for the facilities. So we are going to act quickly to just make some of the forms easier for facilities to use. We're using some outdated forms, frankly. They've been around for since our last compliance monitor left. So I think the facilities that we do monitor will be happier because they gave us some feedback like, why are you asking for all of this information? And we're like, we don't need all of that. So we're going to make it easier. And then there are a couple facilities where there's some opportunity to think about how, in one case, how status offenders are coming in and out of the building. And then in another place, so there's a court, and one is that's in a police department, and then the other is a court situation where young people are brought to go before a judge. So there's some maybe opportunity to rethink how that's happening, because in both cases, there's if the way things are currently operating, those would constitute violations. And when we have a violation, we're only allowed a certain number of violations. And at some point, when we have too many violations, it will cause or trigger a reduction in our Title II federal funding that we appreciate and know that we want to give out to important youth serving organizations. So a couple opportunities. This is preliminary. We haven't seen it in a formal letter, so I'm kind of keeping it vague because we want to see it on paper. But they had a very good week. Most facilities that they visited, they didn't see issues. They had no findings, but there are definitely a couple things that are a few things that we saw that we know we can improve on. And Didier Monsian and Aloysius Anderson were the two folks who spent a week. Anya and Lindsay did a fantastic and great job of managing that process. We had our exit interview. Parsa was able to join the exit interview. Our juvenile justice friends were there making themselves available in Marion County and Lynn Benton and then we were actually at Multnomah County's facility just for the exit interview today. So just great collaboration and help throughout the week. The other things on the juvenile justice front, I think we'll want to just give a quick committee update, and then we'll mention also that the Coalition for Juvenile Justice Conference is coming up in May. So we'll mention those things as a part of that Juvenile Justice and State Advisory Group update. Any questions on that one?
No, but that's going to take
Molly?
some time. So to give yourself some time.
Yeah, probably 30, 40, 40-ish minutes, 40, 45. Yeah. Melissa, you want to note that? Yeah, we don't want to rush through that stuff. We may not have the formal audit report yet by the time of that. And I guess it's mid-February now. So actually I think they said, Parsa, help remind me if they said we'd get it. they say? I'm so like
They said
bad.
90 days.
90 days. So we
They have
may
up
not
to
have it
90
yet.
days.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah, Molly, you're shaking your head. So we may not have, but we know from today's meeting and the kind of preliminary information, I think we have a good idea of what things we
Right.
need to do so we can share the preliminary findings. We will move after that update to a grants update, and there are probably three or four things that we'll cover as part of the grants update. I know Cord, you're here. Sally, I know you're here too. But we've got a few things, kind of one specifically around our youth violence and gang prevention slash reduction grant making. If, well, how about it? Depending on what the legislature decides, we will, whether there's a reduction in our budget or a partial, like perhaps a 2.5% reduction or a 5% or no reduction. I don't know what they're going to decide. The thing that we put on the table as a potential reduction was this youth violence and gang prevention reduction grant dollars. So hopefully by next month, we'll know what, if any, impact um, the budget decisions will have. And so we will know whether or not whether or not we're moving forward in any way with this grant. We will bring to the council hopefully information about where we stand budget wise, and on also a kind of quick outline of a process because we need the council's vote around the process for those dollars, which we didn't get from you. I can't remember if that was like last spring, probably last June, because we didn't know if we were going to have these funds or not. And we weren't sure what exactly how we wanted to direct them, so we didn't bring to you an outline. And the process, I imagine, will be a pretty a truncated process, given that if we have the dollars, we will want to try to get them moving, I'll just say generally by this summer, and then potential grantees would only have about a year to spend those dollars. In a biennium, there's around $800,000 typically. Again, depending on where the legislature lands, we'll see how much of those funds we actually have. But again, we want to bring the process. Cord, do you want to say anything else about that? I can't, Cord, if you're
Sorry, I'm in
saying
Teams all
something,
day. I'm
you're
like,
shaking
where is
your
the mute
head.
button? It's into the opposite corner. Sure. I mean, and yeah, I think when we did the RFA approvals for the youth grants applications that we did last spring, we actually thought we were going to do this grant in the fall. I think we knew we wanted to do some work on the grant,
Yeah,
goals of the grant and the eligibility and whatnot. And then with the budget reality setting in and the reductions we were asked to propose, once we proposed this there was two scenarios. In the deeper cut scenario, this fund would be completely eliminated. And the revenue forecast this week was it this week? I feel like it was last week, but I think
I think
think
it was
this
last week.
Last week, yeah.
it was last week. Okay, then it was okay. That's it's not fantastic, but it is, I think, better than expected.
Mhm.
And we realize like this, if we have this money, we need to be moving. So we are, we're working with procurement now to start planning for a process, because if we have funds, we'll need to move pretty quickly to get them out, to give folks as much time as possible to implement programs and services. And so, also looking at our administrative rules, we do need to bring it back to the council for approval. So
Yeah.
that's why it's on here.
Awesome. Thank you, Cord. I think the other grant making updates, Melissa, I can't, now I'm like actually not. There are a couple of other items that we had as updates and grants. Melissa, do you know what those are?
We have youth-led grant making
Yeah,
update. You want to talk about
cool.
that one, or do
So
you want me to list them all off?
no, so we'll bring an update there and a timeline. I think in general, we want to bring bring to the June meeting some more about kind of where things are. I know that Sally and Paul, when he's back from a short leave, will bring some more concrete ideas in June, if I'm not mistaken. So, but just definitely bring that topic up. And then what else is there, Melissa?
Title 20 funds for community investment
And
grantees.
so information about Title 20. So those again are those federal dollars that come to us through DHS, Oregon DHS, Oregon Department of Human Services, and they're the social services block grant dollars. The short information I can just tell you all now is Cord and I and perhaps others got a notice that we still haven't gotten an official confirmation or official piece of paper that says those dollars are available. So until we get paperwork, we're not moving in any direction on the additional awards that we are hopeful to be able to make using the social services block grant dollars. So no news yet. We keep checking on a weekly basis, basically, and then we'll let you know where those things stand in March. Does that sound right, Cord? Yeah, okay.
Does.
Melissa, anything else?
The last one is a Title II update from Lawrence.
Good. And we may put this, Melissa, maybe up in the state advisory group in the SAG update, but
Oh, okay.
we've got the Title II dollars that are currently um, um, have been awarded to various grantees. We're still waiting on a solicitation from the federal government for 2025. So I'll make sure we check in with with Anya and team about kind of where things stand on Title II. But we even asked our folks who are in town from OJJDP. They don't work on grant awards as much as they weren't focused on grant Title II granting, grant making and grants. They were focused on the compliance stuff this week, but they, didn't have new information for us around Title II. And again, we're still waiting on a solicitation that typically is issued much earlier than it has been. So I think that we understand from the folks who were visiting this summer, or sorry, this week, that the DOJ has fewer staff now than it used to, and so they're, you know, just working on with much less capacity. And so we'll see when that solicitation comes out, which then would mean, would let us know kind of where we are for funds and that are awarded on an annual basis. And then we put out as grants to do their juvenile justice work. It's an important body of work. We know that our like the basic we've done our part in terms of ensuring that we're ready to respond to that solicitation and our general sort of readiness has been like, but from an OJJDP standpoint is they've said that as far as Title II is concerned, you guys have done everything you need to do. Now we just are awaiting a solicitation. I don't know, Molly, if you have any other thoughts given your experience around that, but we're just kind of in a holding pattern.
Yeah, I think I mean, we have our 3-year plan. We have all of our stuff done.
Yeah.
Everything's turned in.
Yeah.
It literally is just when will it be released from the federal government?
Yep. Thank you for that. Moving on. I know time's getting short here, but we're kind of getting to the meat of things. We'll have a grantee presentation since again we've got a 4-hour meeting. We're hopeful that the Klamath tribes can talk about some of their work. They specifically in the March timeframe do what's called a sticker shock campaign, and they work with their tribal youth council to go into places that are selling liquor and put stickers literally on bottles and in those spaces to remind consumers that providing or selling alcohol to minors is illegal, and the risks of in around youth consumption are real. And they do this during this time in March because there's a couple of basketball tournaments that happen. And there's a national basketball tournament that happens in early March, and then a statewide tournament that happens kind of mid March. And so they specifically are doing this when there's just a lot of people at the reservation. And so we heard from one of our council members, Hannah Schroeder, about this, and we're like, "Hey, could you talk more about this to our council and tell us?" I'm giving away more than I probably should because it's a really powerful um, program, and so we're hoping that they can talk to us about that during our meeting and other things that are happening at the tribe. That they get juvenile crime prevention funds from us. And I don't think this year, but in the past, they've also gotten some competitive grants. So just excited about what the tribes can share and knowing that one of our council members is also a member of the Klamath Tribes. We'll move then to an early afternoon data presentation. I think there's I don't know, Cord, do you want to say two or three words about kind of, I think we have two or three things that we want to talk about, but probably start with a schedule of like what to expect and Cord, take it to you. Probably only have a couple minutes because we're at the bottom. Well, I guess we have maybe longer in this meeting, but we don't
I'll
have a
go
ton
fast.
more time.
Um, so so we've usually in March we usually provide some data reporting on grants from either the previous year or the previous biennium. We're actually going to be starting this with kind of presenting a schedule of data reporting. What we've been working on, what I've been working on with our data folks is trying to really like map out the cycle of when we're working through the data we collect, when we're able to report on different grants. There's stuff that we hadn't really thought of as part of this cycle, but things like data on our RFAs. We present to you, after we do our application processes, what the responses are. So we're going to be sharing out like this is our proposal or what we're looking at for the next 2 years ahead. And we kind of see this March kind of as the starting point for a cycle where we kind of are able to start reporting on grants from the previous biennium. And then, there's after about a year, we provide some data on the first year of our activities, which we're in now in the current biennium, as well as data on processes, our RFAs. There was a request for data on reviewer information, who our reviewers are, score and trends, et cetera from the RFA. We're going to be planning for a presentation on that to the council. So we'll lay all that out, and then we'll actually start the presentation on 2023 to 25 biennium data. We're going to be providing some high-level data, just total participant counts for youth grants, which is like community investments, workforce grants. We heard about Future Ready last time. If we have some new data available there, we may share it. And we'll share high level data on re-engagement as well. But then we'll do a deeper dive into the community investment grants. And so we'll kind of get into demographics, activities, et cetera. And then in June, we'll have a more extensive report out to the council on the re-engagement grants. So last year, I think we did the two 1 year data reports together. We did re-engagement and community investments as one presentation, but we're going to split them up in part because when the data is available, when we have it ready, it's easier for us to separate those and get a little deeper into each one. So it should be, I think, hopefully both like interesting in terms of content on the grants, but it'll also give you a sense of the overall workflow we have around data collection and when we could report out to you.
Thank you, Cord. Um, that's really helpful. It would be a full meeting. But again, I appreciate Court too that yeah, folks may remember the splitting out of these the reporting so that you get some stuff this in March and then some in June. Maybe this was the meeting I think last year where like the power went out in the building, right? Isn't that
It
what
is.
happened? So hopefully the power will stay on. But we'll give you a little data and then some more data in June. So you're kind of getting a sense of where things stand. Any questions on data for me or for Cord, frankly,
I
and the
have a
team? Because I know they've
question.
been
I was
working on
looking for how to raise my hand, but again,
it. Oh,
I'm
Melissa.
can't find that on Zoom. Um, do you have an estimate for how much time we want to allow for that, Cord,
I
including
think
questions?
I think 25 minutes between 20 and 30, I think is
I was gonna say let's add more because just because of experience and being around for a long time.
Yeah,
I would say 30 to 35.
sounds good.
Perfect.
Yeah,
Uh,
people.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah,
Yeah,
fair. Another reason why we're breaking it up a little bit, so is that the more we put out there, the more questions we get. So
yeah.
That's good. I'm also wondering about having it before lunch versus right after lunch. Just thinking about that. Nothing, as Brian said at the top of the meeting, this order isn't necessarily set in stone, so we'll see how it works out when all the times are in place.
Yeah.
Thanks.
No, we want to get that vote
At the top.
in
Yeah.
ideally, because sometimes people drop off. So yeah, we'll look at how to get things. We might change some order, to Melissa, to your point.
Yep.
Um, then I'm kind of going to the bottom here. So after the data presentation, we'll move into committee updates. We've got our youth committee kind of checking in where they stand. I know there's a lot of sort of more individual level outreach happening. We will have already talked a little bit more about a little update on the youth-led grant making, but there's still more to come there. So not a ton to share, but just know that we're kind of getting some more intentional engagement happening with young people. Then we'll have our strategy committee talk about what's happening there. There's a meeting, I think, coming up in the next week or two with our strategy committee, if I'm not mistaken, right, Cord or Melissa? Before the March meeting, there's a strategy committee meeting, so they'll be ready to talk
I'll
about
make
what
a
they
quick pitch,
discussed.
February 26th at 10:30 a.m.
10:30, February 26th. Thank you, Cord. Thank you, Melissa. Um, and since we will have already heard from juvenile justice, that committee will be covered. Any committee update related questions or comments? All right. From there, we'll move to public comment. That's usually pretty straightforward. And then we'll wrap up. I'll just, any next steps, any actions, any kind of loose ends that we need to tie up. One of the things that I have in my notes and that I want to be sure to cover is we're definitely in a mode and will continue to be in a mode this spring and summer of like YDC member recruitment. So just as a reminder, we have Parasa Tabiti. Well, we have Molly terming off, so March is her last meeting. Then we have Parsa, Tabiti, Zan, Jeff, and Andy each have 3 more meetings. We might stretch them, Melissa, to say, hey, show up to December just to get them to the end of the calendar year. So I'm just speaking my hopes out loud, and I say that there's plenty of precedent for like, okay, we need you a little longer. And then we will need, I'll just say it kind of into the new year, a new chair. Parsa will have served her time. And Tabiti's been vice chair for a while, so we'll need to get a new vice chair on board. So lots of, and we're not, trying to engage in conversations, excited about Bobby coming on. And so we're not, I'm not losing focus on this and the need, but certainly there's a fair amount. And have had some good conversations with folks over the last year and a half, 2 years, folks who've come to our, convenings and community engagement meetings and so on. So I think we've got some prospects out there, but there's certainly work to be done. Parsa?
Brian, would it be helpful for us to say something about it during the meeting in March? If
Oh
it's,
yeah.
let's,
Yeah.
and
That's what I'm saying.
put an offer out there. Okay,
Yeah,
that's the
yeah,
intention to add
yeah, yeah.
something.
I
Okay, I
will
just want to
either
make sure I was
I have it
tracking.
in my wrap up, but I think I'll actually probably move it up to the director's update uh,
Yeah.
and make sure that folks are clear. And yeah, if you have specific ideas, would love to take them or about people. The other thing that Melissa's going to do, I'll say this fast, is she and I have been talking about putting out some kind of survey, something that will show folks here are the different categories that are required by our state advisory group requirements, and here's the categories we think people are in, and you can confirm that, but it also give you a sense of um, um, it will give once we have done the analysis, we'll also know where we need people. And I will say this real quickly, coming out of this this compliance and monitoring process over this week, and this isn't actually new, but it's just for me hitting a little bit more closer to home that involvement by the courts and by the judiciary is really helpful and valuable. We fortunately have a judge, and Molly, you can help me remember, who I think is from the Ashland area, who's attending our Juvenile Justice Committee,
Yes.
which is fantastic. But having that perspective is so valuable because one of the things we found in our there's some specific outreach that I need to do to the judiciary, to the judicial community about, hey, when you have young people coming to court, it is important that they are not be held in a facility, a holding area, a lockup area where there are adults. And in some of our spaces, we found that there's some close calls, there's some potential, and I'll just say it, like Multnomah County has, in the sheriff's office, kudos to the Multnomah County Sheriff's Office, has spent some real time thinking about this, but we still have a little like question that we would ask, like, maybe you could dedicate a courtroom to young people. Our friends in Clackamas County have a new court building. So does Multnomah County, but Clackamas does. So we didn't have any data, but we got some questions. It seems like if we'd had a conversation, we might have thought about doing things a little bit differently. That opportunity doesn't happen because the building's built. But goodness, it has been driven home to me about how those relationships, which I think we have, thanks to our juvenile directors and so on, but those relationships are really critical because there are some conversations we're going to have coming out of this audit to say, well, what about this? Or have you thought about that? And I'll shut my mouth here in a second, but the design literally of the building, like that's not a thing we can change, but it can be problematic as it relates to the Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention Act. So judges, we want you on board. We've got good relationships. We've got the delinquency improvement program happening. So I think we're well positioned. Molly, were you going to say something?
No, I think you're spot on.
Yeah. So
Actually, it's an interesting time, and Bobby, I'm just really, if he's still on here, really excited that he's coming on. Is over the past probably 10 years, we've had kind of a silent relationship with OJJDP. And so, for those who don't remember, last time we actually had to divert 50% of our funds at one point to, I think it was Washington County Police Department or Beaverton Police Department to upgrade their space, because you talk about layout, actual like walls.
yes.
They needed to do some updates, and so yeah.
And there it is. If you have violations, then you get your funds reduced and you need to apply your remaining funds to fixing the problem that's been identified where the violations are occurring. Because, right, which we know, like, we know we keep getting repeated violations. It's just going to happen. So we don't want that to repeat. But then how do we help, say, a police department or a court fix the issue? We take the dollars that they're giving us and they go that, which we can do, but that you all know, then that means less money to programs. So work to happen. So we'll process to your point too. Yeah, we'll get the member recruitment stuff up front. We'll also want to get some information out to our council members about where they fall in some of these categories. And your partnership in recruitment is like really important going forward.
Yeah, happy to help support and put an offer out if folks are interested in serving or interested in serving as chair or vice chair, discussing what that experience is
Yeah.
like, right? And what to expect. Happy to connect with folks either one-on-one or in a small group about it as well.
Thank you. Um, so that is about wrap up. That's about it. I think, yeah. Any other, if like in my wrap up too, if there's, like I said, any next steps or actions or, key highlights, I'll do that. And then we'll be done probably about 2 o'clock. Whatever that is, it the 12th, March 12th, Thursday, March 12th. So
Yep, Thursday, March.
that's our agenda. Melissa, am I missing anything?
I don't think so. I will be sending out a specific RSVP email so I can keep track of folks for lunches because we provide lunch for anyone attending in person. So there's that little detail to keep track of.
Mhm.
Um, I don't think so.
And then to clarify for the meeting in March, there's no vote on anything. Nothing
There
needs to be approved.
one
Tentatively.
vote
There's one
in
vote.
in the
Okay.
beginning around that youth and gang violence reduction
Oh,
process.
that's right. Okay.
I think, Cord, correct me if I'm wrong, or I think we'll likely, it's going to take us a little bit of effort to just say, okay, let's make sure we have a proposed process for deciding, but in all likelihood, we'll want to bring that to a vote because if we don't bring it this time and then we bring it in June, it feels to me like we're that much farther off from actually getting those dollars at the door. But we also may be bringing you a vote because it's possible that we don't have enough information about where our budget is. So you're right, there's some chicken and egg stuff happening. My thinking is we bring it to a vote and say, hey, if we if we have the money, this is the process we will use. Cord, I don't know if you have thoughts.
Yeah, I think the anticipated end of the short session is March 9th. And so I think we should know.
Yep.
Although sometimes because our budget is an ODE's budget, we don't always get clear answers on exactly what happened to our money right away.
Yeah.
So we still may be trying to uncover it a few days later, but um, we're hoping that we'll know that there is some money, and we'll be working on developing the process so we can at least, even if we don't know exactly how much money there is, we should be able to say this is, we're kind of planning for the contingency there is money, and this is how we would propose to distribute it.
So one vote parsa, but various other some content for folks
Okay.
to chew on.
Yeah, that's really helpful. I always like to track, when we need to make sure
Yeah.
that we have quorum for a vote
Yeah.
and so
Yeah.
forth. And
And we'll do that right at the beginning. That's why we might actually put the grant thing at the beginning, and maybe we'll move the juvenile justice SAG update maybe right after. So
later.
we might toy with that morning a little bit just so we can get the vote in, and maybe also, Melissa, to your point, we can see where the data stuff happens. But um, we'll 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 fit stuff in, and see where we can get everything covered. All right. I appreciate everybody's time on a Friday morning. Nate, anything from you? Any questions or comments?
Not really. Everything sounds good to me.
No, thank you. Um, Mike, I see you here from the heck. Just appreciate your attending. Hey, any comments or questions from you?
No, no, but thank you for letting me listen in, and I really hope that there are any budget cuts, especially for that prevention work. That's really important.
Yeah.
So,
Thank you so
yeah.
much.
Yeah.
All right. Sally and Melissa and Taneja, also many thanks for being here. Um, Parsi, you want to close us out?
Sure. Thank you everyone for being here. Really appreciate Melissa and team and Brian just for letting us preview the agenda together and offer insight as we get ready for March. And um, I'm sending all my good thoughts and good energy for ending the session strong. There's still a lot of work to do on the budget side, but I'm going to stay hopeful, especially given the latest revenue forecast. So thanks again, everybody, and I'll close this meeting at 11:48 a.m. on February 13th. Thanks again.
Thanks, everybody.
Take care.